Okay, so we've done the geometry already, and it's within the list, the geometry folder. Okay, so the next step is to produce a mesh within the geometry or within the model. So that's the second step, and it's also a very interesting and important step. Okay, and there are a bit procedures to do this. Okay, so first we should go through the listing here, and we need to click here 3D CAD Model 1, and then we need to convert this geometry into a part. So we right click 3D CAD Model 1 and choose new geometry part. And we just take all the default settings, okay? And then in the part folder, we will see it. And all the services we named are listed in here, okay? So now what I will do is, for the later convenience, I will rename the part body 1. The body 1 is a default name. I just want to rename it as BFS. Backward facing step, okay? And because we can then recognize it. And also in here, there are curves because we didn't name the curve. And that's just the outline of the geometry. Okay, good. And so we have the part. And there's another step. We need to click this BFS part and right click. We need to assign part into regions. We need to generate a region for flow simulation. Okay, so we highlight this BFS, and the first one in the bottom part, create one region for all parts since we have only one part, and we take this. But for the second, create a boundary for each part. No, we need to create a boundary for each part surface. So we name the 6 surfaces, and so we will have 6 boundaries, right? Then we apply. So it's applied and close. So in the region, then we will have the boundaries, and this will allow us to change a boundary condition, but we will come to here later. Okay, so now the major task is to generate a mesh. So we need to come to this continua, and the next step. So new mesh continua. Okay, so we are doing a mesh now and model. So we need to choose what type of mesh we want to generate. Because the backward facing step is regular geometry, we just use a trimmer. Okay, so trimmer, and then we close it. So that's a model we are using. And then we choose the base size, change the base size. Base size is just the size of the grade. So it's 1 meter, which is very large. And so we will change it to 0.1. So let's see what we will have. So we validate it. Okay, so then we just click this meshing generate volume mesh button. So then the mesh is generated. You may wonder we can't see it. That's true. So we in the panel is geometry thing. So we need to activate the mesh thing. So we need to click this picture icon. So click mesh. So the mesh is showing. And you can see the external mesh in here. Okay, so this is how we generate the mesh. But there's another step you may be interested. You want to see the internal mesh. Then we need to do something extra. So we need to generate a plane in the center of the volume. So we right click, new part, and choose section and then plane. So this allows us to define the plane. So now by default, the plane is this plane, but we want the plane be the longitudinal plane in a streamwise direction. So we set the plane origin at 0, 0, and 0.5. That's the origin, and then it should be normal to the xy plane. So this is 1, and this is 0. So this is a plane we want. Is that right? So we create this plane and close it. So then in the derived parts, we have this plane. Okay, so we have the plane now. And we want to see the mesh in this intermediate plane. So what we can do is we need to do something in here. So the mesh and section mesh. Okay, so we can deactivate this one, and so if we double click, we can activate, double click to deactivate, and then we can just show the mesh in here. We can just enable the mesh. So this is a mesh we have, internal mesh on the inside. Okay, so you can see. And if we double click, you can see the external mesh, that's internal mesh. And also we can play around with the base size and in the mesh continuum. So in here, if we change the reference base size, we reduce it to 0.05, we are expecting denser mesh. Then we just update the mesh by click this volume mesh button again. So we'll see smaller mesh. And there are also other parameters we can play around. Maximum cell size. So this is very large, 10,000 times of the base size. So we can reduce it so the maximum grid size can be reduced. We make it 100 times and update. Okay, and we expect a smaller mesh inside. Okay, so you see, this is smaller resolution. Yeah. Okay, so this is mesh we make, and the next step is we will set the flow model and also set the boundary conditions for the simulation.